Welcome back to the Otaku Spectrum YouTube channel. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy this video for more content like this. Let's continue with part 2 of this crazy dungeon story. Carl holds Donut tightly in his arms. Debris swirls around them. His jaw clenches as realization dawns. He says, "Oh shit." In front of them, a massive, spike-covered machine. 3 goblins ride on top, bathed in bright light. The machine roars forward. The rotating blades glint in the tunnel's glow. The goblins laugh wildly. A glowing blue message appears. It says, "Goblin Murder Dozer. Contraption. A goblin-built, steam-powered machine designed to mow down and slaughter unsuspecting dungeon crawlers." Carl turns and sprints away, still holding Donut. The murder dozer tears after him, closing in fast. Another message appears. It says, "I hope you're up to date with your tetanus shots." 3 goblins are now visible. One wears goggles, one wears a helmet, and one crouches like a predator. They screech and laugh while pointing at their fleeing prey. A system message flashes. "Goblin, level 2. Small, green, and smart. What goblins lack in physical strength, they make up for in pure spunk." Carl runs down a torch-lit hallway. A mechanical claw swings from the murder dozer's side, nearly striking him. He shouts, "What?" A goblin engineer pulls levers inside the machine, steam rising around him. He wears a pot as his helmet and has a snarl on his face. A message appears. "Goblin engineer, level 3. Engineers, the incels of the goblin world. They have a hard time finding a date, which makes them extra angry. If there are any females in your party, they will attack them first." Carl darts forward. The murder dozer is now only inches behind. He yells, "Goblins! There's fucking goblins here!" Carl glances back as he runs. Donut is cradled securely in one arm. His face is tight with disbelief. He shouts, "Why the hell do these alien monsters look exactly like goblins?" Carl skids to a stop at a split in the tunnel. One path leads to a glowing doorway marked Tutorial Guild. The other leads into darkness. He hesitates, breathing hard, weighing his choices. Carl slams on the door. He shouts, "Open up! Open up!" as Donut scratches on the door, meowing loudly. A hose on the dozer breaks, letting out a hiss from the tank, and the pot-wearing goblin looks at the damage as he snarls in frustration. The other 2 goblins jump down with weapons in hand and start walking towards Carl and Donut. Suddenly, the door opens slightly and a grumpy voice shouts from the inside, "Ah, what do you want? By the gods, my head hurts!" The door creaks open and a rat-headed man sniffs the air. Carl then asks if he is a tutorial guild and asks to be let in. The rat-headed man asks whether Carl is a crawler, and then he steps outside and sees the goblins and exclaims, "By his left tit, so you are. I didn't even know the dungeon has opened." The 2 goblins are then shown laughing while holding their pineapple-shaped clubs. Ratman then continues, "Used to be, we had a newsletter that told us what was happening. But they got rid of that a while ago. Budget cuts, you know." Carl then attempts to go inside, growled, "Let me in." But a rat-headed man leans against the frame, holding the door mostly shut. He says, "Sorry, you took too long." Carl shoves against the door. The rat man says, "Can't let crawlers in if the mobs are too close. Those are the rules." Carl yells, "I too long!" His face twists in anger. He growls, "You!" Before he finishes, a goblin with spiky red hair lunges at him, slashing down with club. Carl dodges the strike, barely missing it. He yells, "At least tell me how to open those loot boxes!" The goblin lunges again. Carl jumps backward, barely staying ahead of the attack. The rat man stands in the open doorway. He says, "You gotta complete the tutorial." Carl shouts, "How the hell can I do that if you won't open the door?" The goblin looks at the pineapple, which splatters on the ground. Donut arches her back and hisses in anger, narrowly missing the mess. The rat man shrugs and calmly closes the door. He says, "Not my problem." Carl crouches and glares. He says, "Shit." He rushes forward, fists clenched. He swings a powerful punch and smashes it into the goblin's jaw. Blood sprays as the goblin flies backward. Carl stares at the downed goblin. A green health bar floats above its head. He whispers, "A health bar?" He realizes, eyes wide, holy shit, this really is like a video game. From the shadows, another goblin bursts into view. It wears a vest and goggles and screams in fear. Whee! It turned around, dashes down the hallway. Suddenly, the hall fills with rumbling. The massive spiked machine roars forward, seemingly repaired. The goblin who moments ago had fled, waving excitedly. The spiked rollers spin rapidly. The machine barrels toward Carl. Carl stands above the groaning goblin on the ground, a light red aura surrounding him as he looks pissed as the rat man talks in the background. The rules are clear. If there's any living mobs near the entrance, the door stays shut. Carl raises his foot and slams down hard, crushing the goblin's head and blood spurts everywhere. He starts saying, "There no living." He hears the rat man yell, Hey, stop! Kid, get your creature." As Carl starts turning around, several system messages pop up. Ding, 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 ding. Donut slips past the rat man and goes through the door. "I'll be in big trouble if they find out I let a crawler sneak in." The rat man snarled with an annoyed look. Carl then yells, "Donut!" As the door is about to close, Carl pushes in as the Dozer barely missed him. Carl slams the door shut behind him and presses his hands against it to keep it closed. He breathes hard. He stands in the middle of the room. The fireplace burns bright. The rat-headed humanoid stands in front of it. Donut sits on a table, licking her paw. Carl asks, "Are there any other exits from this room?" The rat-headed figure says, "No." Carl responds, "Copy that." Carl leans against the door, opening it slightly. Blood smeared on his cheek. His eyes are sharp. He asks, "Will those goblins wait for me?" The rat-headed figure answers, "One will." The rat-headed figure continues, "The other will go to get backup." In the hallway, the Dozer starts pulling away into a tunnel. The rat-headed figure says, "In 30 minutes, you'll have the whole family here." Carl thuds his head against the door and says, "Fuck!" He clenches his jaw. He narrows his eyes. He speaks firmly, "Donut, stay." Donut glares at him with wide eyes. She leaps off the table. Donut knocks over a bowl, and as the rat man shouts, "Mom!" a ceramic pot explodes against the floor. The rat-headed figure ducks and raises his arms. Donut is already halfway out the door, scampering. Carl dashes through the hallways as the vehicle continues pulling away into the darkness. He thinks, "I can't afford to be passive." He sprints. He thinks, "I have to finish this, quick." Carl leaps onto the vehicle. He grabs a goblin by the throat. The goblin gasps, "Urk!" Carl hurls the goblin with full force into the air. The goblin screams in panic, limbs flailing as it soars across the hallway. The goblin slams into the archway before rebounding. Carl watches wide-eyed as the goblin crashes directly into the Dozer's spikes. Carl turns his head, stunned. His eyes widened. He whispers, "What?" Blood splashes across the room. The goblin's mangled body is violently torn apart, painting the walls in crimson. Carl is frozen in horror. He coughs, spits. He wipes his mouth with both hands, his expression twisted in disgust. He shouts, "Oh God, there's goblin in my mouth." Carl crouches on the top of a truck, glaring down at a goblin in the cabin below. The goblin grips the Dozer controls, unaware of Carl's presence above. Carl leaps down, leg extended in a brutal arc. His foot crashes into the goblin's face. Blood splatters across the dashboard. The goblin growls, red energy flickering around its pot helmet. Its health bar shows significant reserves. Carl narrows his eyes, muttering, "Shit, he's stronger than the others." Carl swings a heavy uppercut into the goblin's jaw. The goblin's head snaps backwards, its pot helmet flying off its head. Blood spurts from its mouth. Carl grabs the pot, pulling it back. He slams it down hard on the goblin's face. The goblin's limp body flies backward, flung from the vehicle. It tumbles through the air, landing in a heap. Carl stands above the wounded goblin. The goblin holds his head, crouched in pain. A flashing health bar is displayed nearby, showing it barely got injured. Carl looks down with frustration. The pot flies through the air and slams against the goblin's head. The goblin jerks sideways from the impact as the pot bounces off its head. Carl crouches on the murder vehicle, looking down at the now motionless goblin. He mutters to himself. Kicking it only did a small amount of damage. Carl sighs, "God damn it." He stands, clearly fed up, and then launches himself into the air and crashes the goblin's head, spluttering blood everywhere. Carl staggers away from the scene, trying to hold in his nausea. He is half naked, covered in blood. Don't puke on the goblin corpse. Don't puke on the goblin corpse. Carl still stands near the wall. He breathes hard, hand pressed against the bloody surface. A bright red alert box flashes in his vision. "Goblin murder Dozer. Boiler breach imminent." He groans, "For real, Christ." The murder Dozer crackles with energy, bolts and panels popping. Carl turns around in panic. "Shit, shit, shit, shit." He slams the door behind him, eyes wide. "Incoming! Brace!" Carl clenches Donut tightly against his chest. He shouts, bracing himself. A massive explosion is heard from outside. A bright light shines through the door. Carl shields Donut with his body. Carl survives the impact. He stays crouched on the floor. Donut trembles in his arms. A large white creature stares at them. Carl looks back, his eyes narrow, blood across his face. The Ratman creature also looks back in shock. He and Carl lock eyes, tension rising. Carl sits up slowly. Blood trails from his mouth. Donut presses into him for safety. The Ratman steps forward. He stares at Carl and speaks. "What the bloody hell did you do, kid?" A system window appears. It identifies the Ratman as Mordecai, a rat hooligan. The window says he is the guild master of the guild hall and a non-combatant NPC. Carl tilts his head up to look at him. Mordecai towers over him, face stern. Another window appears. It labels Mordecai as level 50. Mordecai kneels in front of Carl, staring intensely. Donut in Carl's arm hisses at Mordecai. Carl supports himself as he attempts to get up, looking concerned. Donut remains in Carl's lap, fur fluffed, golden eyes glowing. Carl winces. He says, "Ow!" Donut growls quietly in his arms. She says, "Grr." Carl clutches Donut close, eyes hard, expression darkened by grime and blood. He says, "What the hell is going on? What's with this dungeon?" Donut snarls again. "Grr!" Carl continues speaking, voice rising. He asks, "Is everyone really dead? How do I work this shit? Also, who the hell are you? Why are you here? What's really..." Before he finishes his questions, Mordecai raises his hands toward him. He says, Okay, slow down, kid. I know you're confused." Mordecai leans in, his eyes intense. Light flickers behind him. He says, "I've been in your position. I was a dungeon crawler just like you." This is the end of part 2. Please like and subscribe for more of this story.